going on, everybody? JR from JR's Cars, and today I'm going to show you how to change a transmission fluid in your Honda Odyssey, so stay tuned. So what we have here is my 2008 Honda Odyssey. I bought this car about a year and a half ago. It's currently sitting at 141, almost 142,000 miles. And when I bought it, I don't know if the transmission fluid was ever changed. So it's a good thing to do. It's part of routine maintenance. You should be doing this with your transmission, especially with this 3.5 liter V6, because it has a non-serviceable filter in it. So what does that mean? That means the filter is inside the transmission and you can't replace the filter as part of your routine maintenance. So keeping up on the transmission fluid, changing it every, say, 30,000 miles will keep that filter from getting clogged, and it'll keep you from having problems with your transmission. So this service here, obviously we're working on the Odyssey, but it will work on the Honda Accord or any of the Acuras that also have this engine and transmission combination. So we're going to get this done. Let's get at it right now. So the first thing that you want to do before it even goes up on the ramps like it is here is check the transmission fluid to make sure that it's in a safe range. Why are we going to do that? We're going to do that because when we drop the transmission fluid out of the bottom, that's going to give us an example of how much fluid we're supposed to be putting back into the transmission to get it back into that safe level. And just so you see, this is what the transmission fluid looked like before we started here. And for reference, this here is where you check your transmission fluid from. So you want to make sure that it's in the safe level, check the transmission fluid, and then get it up on the ramps. Obviously put the car in park, set the e-brake, chalk the back wheels so that way you're safe, because you're going to be working underneath this, and that's the last thing you want to do is have a car roll on you. All right, so now that you have the car all secured, the most important thing that you need to do at this point before you even start is to make sure that you can open up the fill on this transmission, because the fill is not down here where your transmission dipstick is. If you take a look, you have your intake tube here. You go back here, and right on top of the transmission, right down there, let's see if we can get it to focus. So right down there, that bolt is the one that you need to be able to take out, because that is your transmission fill. If you can't get that loose, you might as well not even do this, because if you drop the transmission fluid and can't fill it back up again, you're pretty much up. You know what's creek without a paddle. And for reference, that is a 17 millimeter bolt on top of the transmission you need to take out. So when you have it out, that's what it's going to look like. You're going to have that nice big hole to put a funnel down into and fill the transmission fluid back up. And this is what the bolt actually looks like when you take it out. You see right on top of it, it says ATF. Make sure that you have this washer, but that's what the nut looks like. And do yourself a favor, have a long enough extension that you can have your ratchet way up here, because you're going to have to pry on that, and it's going to hurt if you hit some things in there. Ask me how I know. Okay, so now that the top is squared away and we can make sure that we can fill it, now it's time to drain it out. So you come underneath the car here. So this right here is the bolt that you're going to remove. Now, if you take a closer look at it, it's not a regular bolt that you would have a socket for. So what it is right in there is where your 3/8 inch ratchet is going to go. So grab your 3/8 inch ratchet, no socket on it, put it in there, and then you can break that nut free. And you might have to tap it in a little bit just to make sure that you have full engagement on it. Make sure that that ratchet is all the way in there, so that way you're not going to strip that out. But before we crack that open and make a mess all over the place, you want to make sure that you put a pan underneath it. Now, what I like doing, I like having an open pan. I don't have one. I have a fully closed oil pan, so I like using these little like chafing dish containers, like the long ones that you would put in the chafing dishes, only because I want to see what's coming out of it. So when all the fluid is out, I can actually take a look and see if there's any chunks or any little glittery bits or anything like that inside of the oil, and see if everything looks okay and we're good to put oil back in it, or if we have any kind of other issues going on. All right, ready. Here we go. All right, that came up pretty easily. Now let's see what it's going to look like when it comes out. All right, so it doesn't look too bad. And it does drain pretty quick. So you have to watch. It's going to come out pretty quick on you. So while that's draining out, this is a good thing to take a look at too. When you have your drain plug out, what you're going to want to look at is the end of the drain plug here, because this is a magnet. And what it's going to do is it's going to catch any kind of metal shavings or anything like that that's in the transmission. So seeing a little bit of this is completely normal, because that's just part of clutch wear. It's normal. There's nothing on this that really concerns me all that much. It looks like it's pretty good. It doesn't look like it has any kind of big metal shavings inside of it. It's more just clutch material, and it's normal. It's normal to have that on there. And taking a look at the fluid itself, although just being a little bit, discolored, a little bit orange, there's nothing in it that I've seen, any kind of chunks, any kind of major speckling or anything like that, that would make me think that there's anything wrong with this transmission. And here's what the pan looks like after everything was emptied out of there. And there's nothing in here that would make me concerned about anything. I'm not seeing any big chunks. I'm not seeing any metal in it. I didn't see any speckling in it. So this looks good. We are good to go to fill her back up. Now remember earlier in the video when I told you that I wanted to use that pan for a reason? This is the reason why. I took all the fluid, let it all drain out. That was in the pan. I transferred that from the pan into this jar for two reasons. One was to check to see if there was any metal or anything that was in it. But two would be to check to see how much fluid I should be putting back in there to basically get it back to the level that it was before I did the service. So if we look here, we had roughly about 3.5 quarts that was taken out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 3.5 quarts back in. I'm going to get back on level ground. I'll warm it up a little bit, and then I'll check the fluid again, and that'll get me to a good standing with fluid, so that way I know I'm not running it dry. All right, so my drain plug is in down below and nice and tight. My long funnel is in place. So now it's time for some fluid. Three and a half quarts of transmission fluid went back in. The top cap went back on the transmission. I have it back down on level ground. So I'm letting it warm up a little bit at this point. And I've already shifted through the gears a couple times, rolled it forward, rolled it backwards a little bit, just to get the transmission fluid circulating. We'll let it warm a little bit, and then we'll check the fluid and see if we need to add any more. All right, so here's the deal. Doing the transmission service this way is only going to get a small portion of the fluid out of the transmission itself. You saw it was only 3.5 quarts. There's still a lot of old fluid that's caught up in the torque converter and in the cooler lines too. So what I'm going to do is I filled up the gas tank in this. I'm going to run the gas tank down, usually about 350 miles or so, something like that. And then I'll do another drop of the transmission fluid. Doing it this way doesn't shock the system with brand new fluid in there. So it'll still mix with some of the older fluid. It's not going to harm the transmission in any way. So it's more of a gradual flush, if you want to call it that way. Only because I don't know how long this transmission fluid has been in here. So it's hard to say. You don't want to do a flush especially if you don't know how long the transmission fluid's been in there. I've only owned it for about 20,000 miles, so it's a little bit, you know, it's a little bit here or there. So do me a favor, if this helped you out, hit the like button, drop your comments down below. With the analytics that YouTube has, it puts the videos out there a little bit more, and it helps the channel out, so that way I can produce more videos for you. So I hope everybody's staying safe, and I'll catch you in the next video.